Hello, good morning, everybody. We reached the end of Sanat Kumar's answers to Prithu. So to give you a real brief rundown, after Prithu ended the famine and got everybody back their food, he then formally became the emperor by performing the coronation ceremonies, which Indra tried to interfere with because he was kind of threatened by Prithu being able to do it more royally than he. Because of Indra interfering in Prithu's coronation ceremony, Brahma gave Prithu some good wisdom, and then Vishnu. And one of the things Vishnu asked him to do was to take care of the citizens spiritually and share his wisdom with the citizens. So shortly thereafter, he called the leading members of the population together and shared his wisdom with them. Then after he was done with that, immediately when he was done with that, the four Kumars showed up, and then he asked them a question. Sanat Kumar was their spokesperson. The question he asked was, how do we get enlightened when we don't know anything about enlightenment? Sanat Kumar explained how. That's what we went up to so far. Now that that's done, we'll see this. How do you pay a sage? Or how do you thank a sage? So let's see what this is all about. Extremely grateful that the self-knowing young children of Brahma had given him a clear vision of his true self-interest, the king said, "Compassionate Hari must have felt compassionate towards me." Wow, that rhymes. Compassionate Hari must have felt compassionate towards me. Compassionate Hari must have felt compassionate towards me, for all of you blessed spiritualists have come to me. You, his devotees, are equally as compassionate as Hari. Makes sense, right? The follower has the traits of the leader, hence America. So the followers of Vishnu become like Vishnu. They have his qualities. And since he's compassionate and affectionate, the followers become compassionate and affectionate. You, his devotees, are equally compassionate, so you have very thoroughly manifested this compassion to me. What can I give you in return? Sorry about the nose. It's been a week, a little bit over a week with a cold, but it's on the leaving phase of the cold now, so that's good news for me. This is the hallmark of a basically good person. A basically good person's hallmark is they don't see themselves as being of central importance. They see themselves as being a part of a centrally important principle. So as a result, the immediate result of that trait, they don't ever expect to be given things. And they don't ever really want to get things for nothing. This is one thing about Indian society that I don't like. You know me, I'm a huge fan of India, even in many ways, modern day India with all of its pimples. I love it. But there's one thing that I hate is how Indian people always bargain for prices. It's I actually don't like it. Can you give me a discount? Can you give me a discount? No, I don't think we should expect to get discounts or special services. People who think that they're centrally important think that they should get special deals. But people who don't think they're centrally important never expect to get a reduced price, a freebie or something, right? So what happens to Prithu, who's certainly the emblem? Honestly, to be honest with you about that Indian comment, It's been about 2 years now, so maybe it's changing. It's been about 2 years now since I've even experienced that. Anybody doing that. So maybe Indian culture is changing. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. Back to this particular issue. Prithu being the emblem. Yeah, being the emblem of a good person, doesn't see himself as worthy of other people's service. In Japan, we call free stuff service. It's very interesting. If a store wants to give you something for free, they say it's service, sabisu. Because that's what a free thing is. It's service. That's what service is. It's work done for free. So Prithu doesn't expect to get service. So when this sage comes and serves him, the guru serves the disciple. The sage serves the querent. But the person receiving the service doesn't want it to be service. They want it to be an exchange. They want to serve also. This is the difference. This is what it's coming down to, the difference between a good person and a bad person. You'll see it in relationships and love all the time. A person that wants to serve, when you do service for them, they only serve you, they try to serve you back. So that's what happens with Prithu. After Sanat Kumar gave him this knowledge, he felt like, what can I give you? And the interesting thing about the way Vedic society is and the way human beings basically are is that there's almost always something that somebody can give somebody else. For example, if you're a farmer, then you probably have grains lying around. And if somebody else is a shoemaker, they probably don't have grains lying around. They probably have shoes lying around. So if somebody who's a shoemaker gives you shoes, then you're a farmer, you can give them grains. So there's like always something that somebody has that somebody else needs. So it's nice that way. There's always a way to reciprocate service. Even when a Brahmana comes and teaches you something, you can't give them back like another lesson about something else because you're not a Brahmana. Maybe you can. 2 Brahmanas could do that. But let's say if you're a governor, then you can give them some kind of land. Or let's say if you're a farmer, then you can give them some grains. Or let's say you're a shoemaker, you can give them some shoes. See? That's how it works. What's this? Let me see this. Somebody said honestly. Honestly, Vic, I don't think the beginning is a sign of entitlement. The bargaining is a sign of entitlement. It's rather a practice of mutual agreement and cooperation. Whatever. It may be. It's a tangent anyway. So now, he was thinking, he says, I want to give you, Prithu says to Sanat Kumar and the Kumars, you gave me so much, I want to give you something back. But what can I give you? So he's got 2 problems. You'll find out he's got 2 problems. One of the problems is, what do you need? You don't need shoes. You don't need grains. You don't need anything. You're Sanat Kumar. You're not even a conventional Brahmin or somebody who still has bills to pay. So giving you money? And that's one problem. What do you even need from me that I could give you? And the other problem, but you'll find out there is something. And then the other problem is, I don't actually have something. Wait, who's this? Oh, hi, Sanjay's sister. Vic is never agreeable. That's the problem of being born under Uttarashada. You can't agree with anybody. It's so annoying. And then I have the moon in the 6th house. Don't worry about it. Change of life to another body, not a problem. Let's just get a better body next time. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the story here. God, what's this? I keep getting interesting. Okay. So he's got two problems. He wants to repay the sages for their service, but one problem is, how do you repay a sage that doesn't really need anything? What do they actually need? And the other problem is that he doesn't have anything to give. That's very interesting because he's the emperor. How can you be the emperor and not have anything to give? That's going to be really interesting, how he considers nothing to be his property, and therefore he's not entitled to give anything away. So let's hear what he has to say. He says, all I have, everything I possess, is a gift. Remember this coronation ceremony, how many gifts he got? Everything that I have is a gift that was handed to me from a sadhu. That's the first thing. You can't give away a gift. It's rude. Second of all of those gifts I then gave entirely to the teachers and philosophers. So I redistributed all this wealth. I gave them everything, my kingdom, forces, land, treasury, as well as my own home, children and wife, and even my own self. All of his being was been dedicated to the service of his citizens. Everything that he does, everything that his wife does, everything that his children does, everything that goes on in his home, all of it is dedicated to, it's for his subjects, it's for his citizens. He doesn't think that any of it is his. I made them commanders of my armies and the leaders of and administrators of my kingdom. They're in control of it all. And see how his government was. We talked about this. Was one of the things that Prithu did, was begin the switch away from monarchy by making government a more complex government that has more checks and balances. So here you have some examples of some of the positions that he created and how he gave power to the people. I made them the commanders of my armies and leaders and administrators of my kingdom. I did this because I believe that those who know the Vedic Shastra are the only ones truly capable of leading society. So I don't have anything to give because everything that I have is a gift. And then even what else I have, or even those gifts, I gave back to the sadhus. And I gave them control of ministers and leadership positions and advisory positions over everything. So nothing that I have now is 100% mine. Not even my wife. Not even my kids. I can't give anything. They accepted everything I offered, but they also distribute it wisely to all the various members of society. I therefore possess nothing to give you. You have shown us our true selves and very conclusively explained how to walk the path towards the all-attractive revealed in the Vedas, but how can we repay you? In truth, though, you need no payment. For your constant deeds of unlimited mercy bring you perfect satisfaction with which nothing can diminish. And then finally he concludes, all we can do is offer you water in our cupped hands. That's the beautiful payment that he gave to the Kumars. So think about this carefully. A sage who needs nothing, a sage, the quality of Sanat Kumar, who literally needs nothing. Right? They literally don't need food. They literally don't need a home, etc. They do something for you. Then what can you do back in return? Nothing tangible. But tangible things are irrelevant anyway. Tangible things are only tokens or concrete symbols of emotion. The actual thing which you give to somebody is the emotion and the affection and the love and the attention. You're actually giving your consciousness. Remember, the basic advice from Sanat Kumar was to seek consciousness in everything. You can indirectly see God by seeing how everything is a manifestation of consciousness. Well, when you give somebody money to pay for an item, what you're giving them is a concrete symbol of work that you've done, which means things that you've given your effort, your energy, and your attention to. It's in that dollar bill. It's become that dollar bill, and then you give it to somebody else. What are you actually giving them is your consciousness, your attention, you're giving you. And that's the same thing no matter what. If you cook somebody a meal and give them the meal, what are you actually giving? Some molecules that got burned on a fire? No. You're giving yourself. Yourself has been put into that creation. So even when you have a situation where you can't give somebody anything, they don't need anything, they don't need the dollar bill, they don't need a meal, you can still give them your affection. So that's what it winds down to. Everybody needs affection. Everybody wants affection, even a sage. So in the end, the only thing that he gives the sage is a totally simplest token possible of affection, which is just water in his own hands. Really nice, right? Yes, so you got it right, Karen. All right, so that's how you pay a sage. And actually, that's how you pay everybody. Even when you go to the restaurant and you pay 50 cents for a black coffee. I think it's like $1 now. That's what you're giving them, your money. It's just yourself. Okay, now, this is almost, unfortunately, over. We have 2 more pages. So that brings up the question of what's going to happen next after we finish these 2 pages. After we finish the 2 pages, then we'll have to change the pace. So the Bhagavatam stream will go to a weekly thing. Instead of a daily thing, it'll go to weekly, because during the week I'll have to be translating new stuff. This is all stuff that I translated 2 years ago. But now we caught up to what that is. So, but along with that, I'm going to introduce another stream, which is going to be, well, I don't know. You never know how things are going to work, but my plan is, there's 5 classic astrology texts that need to be translated in a good way. So I'll get into that as well. So there'll be probably 2 weekly streams instead of on 2 different subjects rather than 5 on one subject. All right, now, end of Prithu's story. Basically, it was the whole 2020, wasn't it, that we did this. End of Prithu's story. After hearing Prithu's respectful and thankful words, those masters of self-realization praised his good character and then disappeared into the sky right before everybody's eyes. Vena's son Prithu. I should close this. Vena's son Prithu, the very great soul, fully invested himself into their spiritual instructions. That's a good description of how we should follow the advice of a sadhu. Fully invested himself into their instructions. Composed within a spiritual self-concept, his self-satisfaction made him feel that all his desires had been achieved. He certainly paid careful attention to his duties and responsibilities, doing what he was responsible for as best he could with whatever resources he could engage. So that's what happens. Most people think what happens when you become spiritually enlightened is you cease to be active in the world, but that's not what's happening here. Different people are different. If a mother becomes enlightened, it's not the same as if an 80-year-old man with no family becomes enlightened. Their behavior after enlightenment is different. If a king becomes enlightened, it's different. He applies his enlightenment. In all cases, they apply their enlightenment to their current situation. He certainly paid careful attention to his duties and responsibilities, doing what he was responsible for as best he could with whatever resources he could engage. He saw these responsibilities as practical expressions of spiritual knowledge. Boom. He saw these responsibilities as practical expressions of spiritual knowledge. He did nothing for his own separate interest, but dedicated all activities completely for the sake of spiritual progress. This is what we should try. He did nothing for his own separate interest. Whatever you do, don't try to motivate that it's just for you. Try to see the activity, even without changing the activity. Try to see how the activity is of use to others and participate in the activity with that in the forefront of your mind. Even if it's the way you're eating your breakfast. He did nothing for his own separate interests, but dedicated all activities completely for the sake of spiritual progress. He did not see himself as the master of his deeds, for he saw that position belonging to the super self, who is at the root of all existence and beyond all things. He lived in the midst of a very opulent royal palace, but never felt any interest in what it might offer for his personal pleasures. He always thought, I'm not significant. Now, if you have somebody say, I'm not significant, then they're probably depressed. Probably, but that's not the only way to feel like you're not significant. The other way to feel like you're not significant is to be enlightened and happy. When a person says, I'm not significant, and is depressed, that what it really means is nothing is significant. There's nothing significant in their life. When a person is enlightened, they feel that they're not significant, not because they're nothing, but because they are aware of something enormous. Let me see if I can give it to you in a simple analogy. The way depression works, or lack of self-esteem works, is everything seems like nothing. Everything seems small and insignificant. The way that enlightenment works is the self is so gigantic, and you're aware of something that's 1,000,000 times even more gigantic. So therefore the self is not significant by comparison to something extremely significant. He lived in the midst of a very opulent royal palace, but never felt any interest for what it might offer for his personal pleasures. He always thought, I am not significant. Thus he dwelt amongst opulence, just as the sun is unaffected by the things it shines on. Always performing his responsibilities in this spiritual state of mind. He always performed his responsibilities in the spiritual state of mind. His wife, and it actually says thus. I'm not sure. I have to check out the original, why it says thus there. Anyway, thus his wife, Archie, was able to give him 5 children who were exactly what the king hoped for. The 5 boys were named Vijitashva, Dhumrakesh, Haryaksha, Dravina, and Vrika. The meaning of those words, these are all warrior children, so these names are all very macho names. Vijitashva means conquering stallion. Dhumrakesh means conqueror of lies. Haryaksha means lion. Lion, and it's something to do with the eye of the lion, eye of the tiger. Dravina means wealth. And Vrika means wolf. Wolf Blitzer. There is a dude named Wolf. So this Sanskrit, wolf is a name for boys too. Actually, before my wife really met me, for some reason her nickname for me was Vule, which is wolf in her language. Don't really warrant that, I hope, but Prithu possessed the qualities of all the gods. He used each of those mental, verbal, and practical qualities to very gently nourish and delight his citizens, thinking of himself as only an instrument of the Supreme, who wants to protect and nourish creation. All right, let's pay attention to that. So since Prithu thought of himself as an instrument for Vishnu, he tried to do what Vishnu wants. Vishnu wants to nourish and protect creation, so Prithu said, let me nourish and protect creation. And because of that, he has all the qualities of the gods, because the gods are the ones that are doing Vishnu's service. Always performing his responsibilities in the spiritual state of Prithu possessed all the qualities of the gods. He used each of those mental, verbal, and practical qualities to very gently nourish and delight all his citizens, thinking of himself as only an instrument of the Supreme who wants to protect and nourish creation. Thus, this is the sense in which people called him Raja, in the sense of delighter more than ruler, for he was as delightful as the moon. So the word Raja is very interesting. Actually, I was just browsing some astrology sites, and I saw one site that had a Raja Yoga report, and it said, how do you shine? And I thought, whoa, whoever wrote this actually knows what the word Raja means. That's cool. Because really the root word for Raja is Rash, which means to shine. Rashi, I probably told you this a billion times. Rashi means sunlight. Sunlight section of sunlight. So Raj basically means to shine, and then the shine has various properties. Things that shine affect us in various ways. They attract our attention so that they're beautiful. Because they're beautiful, they're delightful, they're warm, they're nourishing, and they're powerful. And so those are the ideal qualities of the king. Now it's saying here that when the citizens called Prithu their Raj, they didn't think of it didn't sound in the context of ruler. It sounded like sun, ruler, hard, king, governor. It felt to them more in the concept of moonlight, like pleaser, delighter, because he's so delightful and gentle and loving towards them. And he was also powerful like the sun, whose heat extracts water wealth from the wealthy ocean and distributes it across the earth. That's what the leader's supposed to do. Sorry, folks. Sorry, all the capitalists and socialist haters. But what the king is actually supposed to do is just like the sun. The sun is supposed to evaporate water from the ocean and bring it to the land. So in other words, you're supposed to take money from the rich people and give it to the poor people. The ocean is the wealth resource, and the land is dry. So you take from the haves and you give to the have-nots, but capitalism is the opposite. The haves extract from the have-nots more and more and more. Now, a last bit about Prithu. His insuperable power was like Agni, the fire god. There's nothing more powerful than fire. Even explosions are fire. He was as undefeatable as Indra. That's why we're still worried about Trump. The king of paradise. He was as intolerant as the earth goddess. I'm sorry, not intolerant. Sorry. He was as tolerant as the earth goddess and as wish-fulfilling as paradise itself. So remember before they said he had all the qualities of the gods? Now they're explaining the qualities. His raw power is like a fire god. The impossibility of defeating him was like Indra. His tolerance, his patience was like the earth. His ability to fulfill desires and wishes was like paradise. He was like Parjanya, the rain god, in showering blessings that fulfilled all desires. His intellect was as unfathomable as the sea, and his heart was as steady as the mountains. His ability to teach was like Dharma, the god of morality. He was as astonishing as the Himalayas. His treasury was like Kuveras, and his hidden stores were like Varunas. His power, majesty, and will spread everywhere like the wind. His anger was like blessed Rudras, the god of destruction. His beauty was like Eros, the god of romance. Kamdev. His pride was like a lion's. His affection was like Manus, the original father of humanity. And his creative power was like blessed unborn Brahmas, the god of creation. His knowledge of Shastra was like Brihaspati, the guru and priest of paradise. In self-control, he was like Hari himself. No one was equal in devotion to cows, teachers, scholars, and Vishnu. No one was his equal in tending the needs of his followers with humility and gentility. Everyone embraced him throughout all planes of existence. Everyone celebrated him throughout all 3 planes of existence. His fame delightfully entered the ears of women, just as Rama's fame delights the ears of his devotees. That's it, folks. We reached the end of the translated bits. So next week we'll pick up again with newly translated material. So it'll be more interesting because it's more fresh. Like when you freshly crush the peanuts to make peanut butter, or when you freshly bake the bread or make the coffee, it tastes even better. So from now on, you'll be getting fresh baked Bhagavatam translations, but you'll get it a little bit at a slower pace. All right. Let's see. I see everybody's awesomely happy. So glad about that. Hey Melissa, happy birthday. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow. And my friend Waylon's birthday is today. And it's funny because you're a yogi. You're a yoga, right? You do yoga. I see your image there. And Waylon is also a great yogi. And you're both born December 3rd. Bardo says, so you're saying that enlightenment spills over to your immediate circle, but where did I say that? I don't know how you got that. Alpha's being awesome. No, I'm fine, Sudeep. Thank you, though. You don't have to waste time sending me healing energy. The service to you is my healing energy. Kermit has sent me a cupcake. A cupcake from Kermit. Sujata. There used to be an Indian restaurant in Japan that was a valid Indian restaurant, not run by Nepalis, but run by actual Indians, called Sujata. But they went out of business. She says, she right, says, visiting temples and paying alms, how does it affect us? It's just a good karma. Can we treat annoying mood with the Sutra of Ardra? Ardra is more about anger than annoyance. I think most of annoyance is a different thing. Thank you, Marie. All right, guys. So check. What I'll do is tomorrow, nothing. I will put up in advance, like a week in advance, when the next Bhagavatam feed is going to be. Hey, Del, thank you so much. It'll still be going. It'll still be week by week, and they'll be translating through the week. So probably it will be next Friday. And as for the astrology one, I think I'll start with Pala-deepika, and that maybe we'll do next Wednesday. I'll see. I'll make up my mind. But you see your YouTube should give you a notice when that is. Okay. Farewell, my friends. It's been wonderful.